I am Gu Yan's wife, a top-tier surgeon. Lin Wanwan, the white moonlight he holds dear to his heart, has leukemia, and I am the only fully matched bone marrow donor in the world. I donated my bone marrow to her, and while I was at my weakest, a sudden fire broke out in the hospital, but he gave the only chance to escape to her, pushing me to the ground and leaving me to be swallowed by the smoke. He said, "Shen Wei, you're a doctor. You know how to save yourself." He didn't know that I had been reborn with the memories of that fire when he knelt before me again, begging me to save his beloved Lin Wanwan. I smiled. "You want me to save her? Fine, Gu Yan, jump off this building, and I'll donate." A heartless inferno. The chandelier on the ceiling swayed violently, and charred black fragments fell like black snowflakes. The thick smoke choked me, making it impossible to breathe. Every inhalation felt like swallowing razor blades. I had just donated my bone marrow, and I was too weak to even sit up. The hospital room door was blocked by a collapsed beam. The only way out was a broken window. My husband, Gu Yan, was handing the only escape rope to his first love, Lin Wanwan. Lin Wanwan was merely frightened. She huddled in Gu Yan's arms, crying pitifully. "Ian, I'm scared." "Don't be scared, Wanwan, you go first." Gu Yan's voice was gentler than I had ever heard it. He carefully fastened the rope around her waist. Lying on the ground, I reached out my hand and called out weakly, "Gu Yan, save me." He looked back at me, his eyes utterly cold. He walked to my bedside, unplugged the portable ventilator that was meant for me, and handed it to Lin Wanwan. "Take this, it's smoky out there." Then he crouched down, took the hand I was reaching out to him, and shoved it away viciously. His push sent me crashing into the foot of the bed, my head hitting the icy metal with a dull thud. His icy voice pierced my heart like a frozen dagger. "Shen Wei, you're a doctor, you know how to survive in thick smoke. Wanwan just finished preparation for her transplant surgery. Nothing can go wrong with her." So it turned out that even my name had become so unfamiliar to him. He no longer looked at me. He hoisted Lin Wanwan onto his back and climbed down the wall without hesitation. I lay on the ground, watching in despair as his figure disappeared out the window. The smoke grew thicker and thicker. Flames licked in through the gap under the door, igniting the bedsheets. The scorching air seared my skin. I could almost smell my own flesh burning. It wasn't as if he didn't know. I had been terrified of fire since childhood because my parents died in a massive fire. I was only 8 that year. As the firefighters carried me out of the blaze, I watched helplessly as the room where they stood was swallowed by flames. From that day on, I suffered from severe post-traumatic stress disorder. The smell of smoke would make it hard to breathe, and the sight of fire would send my whole body trembling. I only ever told Gu Yan about this. Holding his hand, I once said to him, trembling, "Gu Yan, if a fire ever breaks out, you have to save me first. I'm so scared." What was his answer back then? He held me and gently patted my back. "Silly," he said, "of course I'll save you first. You're my wife." But now, he has personally pushed me into my deepest fear. In the last moment of hazy consciousness, I seem to see the flames from when I was 8 years old, and the desperate faces of my parents. So this is what death feels like, cold, yet burning. Dr. Shen, wake up." The nurse's voice pulled me back from the boundless darkness. My eyes snapped open, and I gasped for air, my entire body drenched in cold sweat. Bright lights, white walls, and the familiar scent of disinfectant in the air. Not a fire scene, but my office. I looked down at my hands, fair, strong, without a single burn mark. The calendar on the wall clearly showed the date, September 12, 2023. I'm back to the day Lin Wanwan was diagnosed with leukemia, and Gu Yan came to ask me for a bone marrow match. Wasn't I dead? Died in that fire, the day after my 28th birthday. Turns out, even heaven thought my death was too unjust, and gave me one chance to do it all over again. The office door opened, and my best friend and colleague Zhang Qi walked in, carrying a cup of coffee. Dr. Shen, what kind of nightmare made you turn so pale? She set the coffee on my desk and looked at me with concern. Looking at her familiar face, my eyes welled up, and I nearly cried. I shook my head and managed a smile. "It's nothing, just a bit tired." "No kidding," Zhang Qi said with a pout. "Your Mr. Gu is downstairs waiting for you again. He's in that flashy Maybach. People might think he's here to propose." I picked up my coffee and took a sip. The bitter taste spread across my tongue. Gu Yan, just uttering that name makes me sick. How blind must I have been in my past life to fall for a man like this? I set down my coffee cup and stood up. Let's go. Time to face him. To return from rebirth. Downstairs at the hospital, Gu Yan's black Maybach was indeed parked in the most conspicuous spot. He was leaning against the car door, dressed in an expensive tailored suit, with the Patek Philippe I had given him on his wrist. Handsome, wealthy, devoted. That was Gu Yan in the eyes of the world. Only I knew what a selfish and callous heart was hidden beneath that flawless exterior. Seeing me come out He immediately stamped out the cigarette in his hand and quickly walked toward me. Wei, you're finally off work. He habitually reached for my hand. I quietly stepped back, avoiding his touch. His hand froze in midair, a flash of surprise crossing his face. What's wrong? Nothing. I just finished surgery and haven't taken off my gloves. I made up an excuse and slipped my hands into the pockets of my white coat. He didn't suspect anything, just furrowed his brows slightly, his eyes carrying that familiar hesitation of someone about to ask for a favor. Wei, there's something I need to tell you. Get in, and we'll talk. I opened the car door and sat straight in. In my previous life, this was exactly where he told me about Lin Wanwan. In a tone that was almost pleading, he said Lin Wanwan was his high school classmate, the unattainable first love of his youth. He said there was nothing between them, just ordinary friends. He said she had leukemia and was pitiful, the doctor said. Family members had the highest success rate for matching. He took my hand and said with reddened eyes, Wei, I know this is asking too much, but her parents are old and unwell. She only has me. Please, just help me out and go to the hospital for a match. Okay. Back then, I was moved by how devoted and righteous he seemed. I thought that a man who would go to such lengths for a friend from his youth must be a good, loyal person at heart. I foolishly agreed to him. The ridiculous thing is, I only found out right before I died that Lin Wanwan was never his high school classmate. She was his first love, the girlfriend he dated for 4 years in college. She was the one whose name he called all night while holding me, drunk. The atmosphere inside the car was a bit heavy. Gu Yan held the steering wheel, hesitating several times as if wanting to speak, too lazy to watch him put on an act. I spoke directly, just say what you want to say. Is it about Lin Wanwan? He froze in shock and looked at me in surprise. You? How do you know? I tugged at the corner of my mouth, revealing a mocking smile. Guess. His expression shifted slightly, as if weighing something. In the end, he sighed and confessed, Wei, Wanwan has acute lymphoblastic leukemia and needs a bone marrow transplant as soon as possible. He carefully watched my expression, lowering his voice even more. The doctor said the probability of a fully matched unrelated donor is extremely low, almost zero. I thought, wanted to ask you, let me get tested as a match for her. I finished his sentence, my tone as calm as if discussing the weather. Gu Yan was stunned. He probably hadn't expected me to say it so easily, without a trace of jealousy or resentment. This, instead, made him somewhat uneasy. Wei, don't misunderstand. There's really nothing between her and me, but she's in a dangerous situation right now, and I can't just stand by and do nothing. He explained urgently. Is that so? I asked indifferently, watching the street scene speeding backwards outside the window. She's your first love. You dated for 4 years. And she dumped you so she could go abroad, right? Clang, a sharp screech of brakes cut through the air, and the Maybach came to an abrupt halt by the roadside. Gu Yan's face instantly lost all its color. First glimpse of the truth. He stared at me intently, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. How did you know? His voice was trembling. Gu Yan and I had been married for 3 years, and he had never once mentioned Lin Wanwan to me on his own initiative. I only found out about his unforgettable first love from a drunken remark made by one of his friends. He always thought I knew nothing about it. I turned my head, met his gaze, and said word by word, Gu Yan, do you think I'm really that stupid? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. A dead silence fell over the car. I looked at his pale face and suddenly found it all so pointless. Arguing with a man like him was nothing but a waste of my precious time as someone given a second life. Enough. Don't pull that face like you've just lost your parents. I unbuckled my seatbelt. I agreed to the matching test. Gu Yan, as if not believing what I'd said, stared blankly at me. What did you say? I said, I agree to be a donor match. I repeated, pushing open the car door. Tomorrow morning, I'll go to the hospital. Now, I'm getting out. Only then did he react, hastily grabbing my wrist. Wei, don't be angry. I didn't mean to hide it from you. I was just afraid you'd overthink it. I laughed as if hearing the funniest joke in the world. Gu Yan, do you really think I'm in the mood to dwell on such trivial romantic matters with you right now? I shook off his hand and got out of the car. I'll be waiting for you at the hospital blood draw room at 9 tomorrow morning. Having said that, I walked away without looking back, leaving Gu Yan sitting alone in the car, his expression dark and unsettled. He probably could not figure out why I had agreed so easily in my previous life. When he asked me to donate bone marrow to another woman, I eventually gave in out of pity, but not before a big fight with him in this life. I am as calm as an outsider because I know full well that I am Lin Wanwan's only hope. Just how hard is it to find a fully matched, non-relative bone marrow donor in the vast sea of humanity? Harder than scaling the sky. In her previous life, they had searched the entire China marrow donor bank and found no second suitable match. That was why they placed all their hopes on her. That was why Gu Yan, without a moment's hesitation, chose to save her when the fire broke out, because Lin Wanwan was one of a kind. While there were many women who could be Gu Yan's wife in this life, she would make him watch. Without her bone marrow, how would his first love survive? Returning home, she did not turn on the lights. She walked straight into the study and switched on the computer. She entered an encrypted URL and accessed an overseas private medical database. As a top surgeon, I have both the connections and the access. In my previous life, I poured all my energy into Gu Yan and that little family, neglecting my profession and my network. In this life, I will reclaim everything that belongs to me. I entered Lin Wanwan's name and basic information into the database. Soon, a detailed genetic sequence report appeared on the screen. Looking at the end of the report, I smiled. Just as I remembered, I turned off the computer and dialed Zhang Qi's number. Chi, do me a favor. Just say the word, through fire and flood, I've got your back. Help me look up someone. Lin Dishing, around 60 years old, he ran a business in City A over 20 years ago, and then seemed to have gone abroad. Sure, easy peasy, leave it to me, but why are you checking out this old guy? I looked out at the moonlight, my eyes cold. Once you find out, you'll know. 4. White Lotus kneels and begs. At 9 o'clock the next morning, I arrived promptly. At the hospital's blood draw room, Gu Yan and Lin Wanwan were already waiting there. Lin Wanwan was wearing a blue and white striped hospital gown. Her face was pale, and her lips were completely bloodless. When she saw me, she immediately put on a pitiful look, her eyes reddening as if she were about to cry at any moment. Dr. Shen, thank you for being willing to come. She leaned weakly against Gu Yan, looking as if a gust of wind might knock her over. Gu Yan supported her tenderly, his eyes full of gratitude as he looked at me. Wei, thank you. Ignoring them, I walked straight up to the nurse and held out my arm. Go ahead, draw it. The nurse skillfully drew my blood and pressed a cotton swab to the spot. I stood up, ready to leave, but Lin Wanwan suddenly called out to me. Dr. Shen. She bit her lip and asked cautiously, can we talk for a bit? I raised an eyebrow. Before I could speak, Gu Yan jumped in. Wanwan is weak and needs rest. Whatever it is, we'll talk about it later. His tone carried a hint of unwavering protectiveness. Lin Wanwan shot him a pitiful look, then turned to me, her eyes pleading. Just a few minutes, okay. I watched her put on that classic innocent act and sneered inwardly. Couldn't hold back anymore, trying to put me in my place from the get-go. Fine, let's see what tricks you've got up your sleeve. Alright, I nodded. Let's go to the cafe downstairs. The hospital's ground floor cafe was nearly empty. Lin Wanwan and I sat across from each other. She stirred the coffee in front of her, saying nothing for a long time, just shedding tears. I waited patiently, not rushing her. After all, acting requires some time to build up emotion. Finally, she looked up, her eyes red as she gazed at me. Dr. Shen, I know asking you to be a match must be very difficult for you. Yan and we truly are a thing of the past. If it weren't for this illness, I would never have come to disturb your lives. She paused, her voice choking. Actually, when Yan and I broke up back then, it wasn't because I didn't love him, it was because something happened in my family. My father's company went bankrupt, leaving a huge debt. I didn't want to burden him, so I chose to go abroad alone. This was exactly the same speech as in the previous life. Back then, I actually believed that nonsense and thought she was a loyal and decent girl. Hearing it now, it's just laughable. Oh, really? I picked up my coffee and gently blew on the steam. That's pretty touching. My reaction was too indifferent, and Lin Wanwan was clearly caught off guard. She froze for a moment before continuing. I know you don't believe me. That's fine. I'm not here today to explain any of that. I just want to beg you. As she spoke, she suddenly stood up and bowed toward me. Please, you have to save me. I'm still young. I don't want to die. If you're willing to donate your bone marrow to me, I'll do whatever you ask, whatever I ask. I set down my coffee cup and looked at her with interest. Yes, I'll do anything. She nodded vigorously. Alright then, I smiled, leaning back in my chair. Go ahead and kneel right now, then kowtow to me 3 times. For each kowtow, I'll think about it. Lin Wanwan's face turned pale instantly. 5 divorce agreement. She stood frozen, trembling slightly, looking at me in disbelief. Dr. Shen, you, what? Not willing? I raised an eyebrow. Weren't you just saying you'd do anything? Her lips quivered, and tears fell like beads from a broken string. Backslash if you can't do it. Forget it. Backslash. I stood up and picked up my bag. Backslash. It seems you don't want to live that badly after all. Backslash. I'll kneel. Just as I turned around, she suddenly shouted. Then, under the astonished gazes of everyone in the cafe, with a thud, she knelt straight down in front of me. The cold marble floor let out a dull sound. She looked up, her face streaked with tears, her eyes filled with humiliation and resentment. "Dr. Shen, I beg you." She gritted her teeth and slammed her forehead heavily onto the ground once, twice, 3 times. Each time, she used all her strength. Soon, traces of blood seeped from her smooth forehead. The people around began to point and whisper, taking photos of us. I looked down at her from above, my heart utterly calm compared to what I endured in my previous life. What was this little humiliation? "Enough," I said flatly. "Get up." Lin Wanwan scrambled awkwardly to her feet, haphazardly wiping away tears and blood with the back of her hand. "Now, you may consider." "I've already considered," I interrupted, leaning close to her ear and lowering my voice so that only the two of us could hear. "I won't save you." Her pupils constricted sharply, and she swayed, nearly falling. Why, no reason." I straightened up and smoothed my clothes. "I just simply don't like you." With that, without looking at her again, I turned and walked out of the cafe. No sooner had I reached the door than I ran into Gu Yan, who had rushed over in a hurry the moment he saw the wound on Lin Wanwan's forehead. His face darkened instantly. He grabbed my wrist with such force that it felt like he was trying to crush my bones. "Shenwei, what did you do to her?" He yelled my full name, his eyes burning with raging fury. I wrenched his hand off and looked at him coldly. "What did I do? Why don't you ask her yourself?" Wei, Wanwan is still sick. How could you treat her like this?" His chest heaved with anger. "So being sick gives her the right to do whatever she wants," I retorted. "Gives her the right to barge into someone else's marriage and bully their wife into donating bone marrow." "I did not," Lin Wanwan cried out tearfully. "Ian, don't blame Dr. Shen, I fell on my own. It has nothing to do with her." The more she spoke like that, the more Gu Yan's heart ached for her. Supporting the fragile Lin Wanwan, he looked at me with eyes full of disappointment and disgust. "Shenwei, I never expected you to be such a vicious woman." "Vicious?" I laughed. "Gu Yan, you will soon find out what vicious really means." The match results came out quickly, a perfect match, just as I expected. Gu Yan was overjoyed the moment he got the report. He rushed into my office and hugged me excitedly. Wei, this is great, it's a perfect match, Wanwan can be saved." I pushed him away in disgust, took a document from my drawer, and slapped it on the desk in front of him. "You want me to save her? Fine. Sign this first." The smile froze on Gu Yan's face. He picked up the document, and the moment he saw the title, his face turned ashen. It was a divorce agreement. "I walk away with nothing, on one condition. Before Lin Wanwan's surgery, Gu Yan must, in his own name, publish an apology statement in the city's largest media outlet. He must admit to having an affair during the marriage, having an improper relationship with Lin Wanwan, and causing me severe emotional distress." "Shenwei, have you lost your mind?" Gu Yan's voice trembled as he slammed the divorce agreement on the table. "Do you have any idea what this means to me, to the Gu group?" "Of course I do." I looked at him calmly. "I want to ruin your reputation, you." He raised his hand in anger, as if to strike me. I didn't dodge, just looked at him coldly. In the end, his hand fell limply, his eyes red. He gritted his teeth and demanded, Why did you do this?" "Because I don't want to see the two of you, that pair of love rats, ever again." I leaned back in my chair and crossed my arms. "I'll give you 3 days to think it over. Either you sign the papers, make a public apology, and I'll save Lin Wanwan, or you can wait to arrange her funeral." With that, I picked up my phone and ignored him. In the office, only Gu Yan's heavy, ragged breathing remained. I knew he would sign. For his first love, he would do anything. 3 days later, Gu Yan showed up as expected. He brought a signed divorce agreement and a draft of a public apology. I read the statement. The wording downplayed the key issues and shifted all the blame onto Lin Wanwan, claiming she had been deceived, and that he himself had only been momentarily confused. I sneered and tore the draft into pieces. "Gu Yan, are you playing word games with me?" I took out another statement I had prepared long ago and threw it at him. "Post this one." Not a single word changed. He looked at the statement I'd written, his face darker than the bottom of a pot. In the version I wrote, I detailed how he rekindled his affair with Lin Wanwan during my pregnancy, betraying me both emotionally and physically. Of course, the pregnancy was fake. I just wanted to make things more explosive. "Shenwei, do you really have to take things this far? You were the one who was unkind first, so don't blame me for playing hardball." I looked at him. "Don't forget, Lin Wanwan doesn't have much time left." In the end, he still gave in. The next day, the top headlines of the city's largest financial newspaper and online media were all occupied by Gu Yan's apology statement. Gu Yan, president of Gu Group, admits to marital infidelity and publicly apologizes to his wife Shenwei. The news caused a public uproar. The Gu Group stock price plummeted immediately in response. Gu Yan became the laughingstock of the entire city, nailed to the pillar of shame. And I, Shenwei, became the object of everyone's sympathy, a pitiful woman betrayed by her husband and his first love, watching the overwhelming flood of online abuse and pity. I felt no satisfaction at all. This is only the beginning, the best is yet to come. 6. Father and daughter reunite after Gu Yan publicly apologized. Lin Wanwan's transplant surgery was put on the schedule. The day before the surgery, I was admitted to the hospital. Gu Yan also came. He stood at the door of my hospital room, looking haggard, with dark circles under his eyes. In just a few days, he seemed to have aged 10 years. Wei, he began, his voice hoarse. I'm sorry, no need for apologies. I lay on the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. You must be very busy now, Mr. Gu, with the company's stock price falling so much, you still find time to visit your ex-wife. A flicker of embarrassment crossed his face. I'll handle the company's matters. The reason I came is to say thank you. Thank me for what? I turned my head to look at him. Thank me for ruining your reputation, or thank me for being merciful enough to save the woman you love. Gu Yan's fists clenched, but in the end, he let them go. Wei, I know you hate me. Once Wanwan's surgery is done, I'll accept any revenge you want to take on me. Really, I laughed. Gu Yan, it seems you've got one thing wrong. What? I never intended to save her. His pupils suddenly contracted. I pulled a medical record out from under my pillow and threw it at him. See for yourself. His hands trembling, he opened the medical record. When he saw the diagnosis on it, his whole body froze. Aplastic anemia. How could it be? Surprised, I sat up and looked at him with composure. I found out during my checkup 2 months ago. This kind of disease, though not fatal, strictly prohibits bone marrow donation. Otherwise, the donor would be in danger of losing their life. You knew all along. His voice was filled with disbelief. That's right, I nodded. I knew all along. The only reason I agreed to go along with this act with you was to see just how far you'd go, how low you'd stoop, for your first love, and in the end, you really didn't disappoint me. Gu Yan's face turned as pale as a sheet in an instant, as if all the strength had been drained from him. He staggered back 2 steps and leaned against the wall. You lied to me. You've been lying to me all along. That makes 2 of us. I shrugged. You've been lying to me for 3 years. What I've done is nothing compared to that. Shenwei, suddenly, like an enraged lion, he rushed over and grabbed my shoulders. How can you be so cruel? Wanwan will die. She will really die. And what does that have to do with me? I pushed him away hard. Whether she lives or dies, what business is it of mine? He raised his hand, ready to bring it down on my face. At that moment, the hospital room door was flung open. Zhang Qi rushed in with 2 security guards. Gu Yan, try touching her if you dare. The guards immediately grabbed Gu Yan, 1 on each side. Gu Yan struggled wildly, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at me. Shenwei, you vicious woman. I'll kill you. I watched him coldly, barking like a mad dog, and found it ridiculous in my heart. Drag him out, I said to the guards. Yes, Dr. Shen. Gu Yan was forcibly dragged out of the hospital room, still cursing nonstop. Zhang Qi closed the door and quickly walked to my bedside, asking worriedly, Wei, are you okay? I shook my head. What could happen to me? That guy is out of his mind. Zhang Qi was furious. But you're something else, coming up with a trick like that and running them in circles. She gave me a thumbs up. By the way, there's news about that old man you asked me to look into. Lin Dishing. I perked up. Go on. The old man is in Canada now, a moderately known wealthy Chinese businessman. I had someone dig up his information. Guess what? Zhang Qi smiled mysteriously. His only daughter went missing in City A over 20 years ago. He searched for her all these years but never found her. And the most critical part, Zhang Qi lowered his voice. I managed to get that old man's genetic sequence and compared it with Lin Wanwan's. What's the result? I pressed. Probability of parent-child relationship, 99%. I smiled. The fish had taken the bait. 7 kidney source transaction. Lin Wanwan soon received the news that I could not donate bone marrow. I heard that she broke down on the spot, crying and screaming in the hospital room, nearly going into shock. Gu Yan stayed by her hospital bed, never leaving her side. As for me, I completed the discharge procedures and returned to my own apartment. I gave them 3 days to digest this desperate news. 3 days later, I had Zhang Qi anonymously send an email to major media outlets in City A. The content of the email was very simple. Just a paternity test report between Lin Dishing and Lin Wanwan. The email also attached a sentimental passage, telling the touching story of a wealthy businessman desperately searching for his long-lost daughter, who is suffering from leukemia and on the verge of death. As soon as the news broke, it ignited public opinion once again. Netizens who had been cursing Lin Wanwan as the other woman just days ago suddenly changed their tune. Everyone began to sympathize with this poor girl. pitifully afflicted by a serious illness. The hashtag the Truera stricken with leukemia hashtag quickly soared to the top of trending searches. Lin Dishing, far away in Canada, naturally saw the news as well. He immediately took his private jet and rushed back to City A. In the hospital, father and daughter put on a deeply moving reunion scene. Lin Dishing held Lin Wanwan in his arms, tears streaming down his aged face. "My daughter, my good daughter, Daddy has finally found you." Lin Wanwan was also crying uncontrollably. "Dad, I thought I would never see you again in this life." Gu Yen stood to the side, watching the scene, a relieved smile appearing on his face. He probably thought that Lin Wanwan was now saved with her biological father. The probability of a successful bone marrow match was almost 100%. He immediately arranged for Lin Dishing to undergo the matching test. The results came back, and they were a full match. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Wanwan's face finally regained a hint of color. She even took the initiative to call me on the phone. Her voice carried an unmistakable hint of barely concealed smugness. "Shenwei, didn't expect this, did you? Heaven still favors me. Even without you, I can still survive. Is that so?" I replied flatly. "Then congratulations. Not only will I survive, but I'll also live better than you." She laughed. "My father said that once I'm well, Yan and I will get married, with the Gu group and my father's company joining forces. Guess whether you'll still be able to stay in this city for the rest of your life." A blatant threat. I chuckled softly. "Lin Wanwan, don't you think it's a little too early to be celebrating?" "What do you mean?" "Nothing much." I hung up the phone. "Lin Wanwan, do you really think finding your biological father makes everything alright? You're way too naive." Over at Lin Dishing's end, the predonation medical exams were arranged quickly. The results came back all clear, and the bone marrow collection could proceed anytime. The surgery was scheduled for 1 week later. Everyone was immersed in joy and anticipation. Only I knew that this surgery could never happen, because Lin Dishing simply would not donate. In my previous life, after I died, Zhang Qi, while rushing about for me, accidentally uncovered Lin Dishing's affairs. He truly was Lin Wanwan's biological father. But he was also a complete hypocrite. The reason he was so eager to reunite with Lin Wanwan was not paternal love, but because he had uremia and desperately needed a kidney transplant, and Lin Wanwan was the only suitable match for the kidney. He wanted to trade his bone marrow for his daughter's kidney. What a fair deal. Too bad I died in my previous life. Lin Wanwan had no other choice but to accept her father's terms. She traded one of her kidneys for her own life. But in this life, I'm here. How could I possibly let her get her wish so easily? 8 Life and death decision. The night before the surgery, I met Lin Dishing at a tea house. He looked a bit older than in his photos, but his eyes still held traces of the shrewdness from his younger days. He seemed somewhat surprised to see me. "Dr. Shen, what do you want from me, Mr. Lin? It's been a while." I sat down across from him and got straight to the point. "Since we're both sensible people, let's not beat around the bush. You're looking for Lin Wanwan for her kidney, aren't you?" Lin Dishing's expression changed instantly. His hand, holding the teacup, trembled slightly. "Dr. Shen, I don't understand what you're saying." "Don't understand?" I smiled. "Mr. Lin, you have end-stage renal disease, uremia, and need dialysis 3 times a week. You haven't told your beloved daughter about this yet, have you?" His face turned completely grim. "How do you know that?" "If you don't want anyone to know, don't do it." I poured him a cup of tea. "You went to great lengths to return to the country and claim kinship, putting on this drama of paternal devotion. Also Lin Wanwan would willingly donate her kidney to you, isn't that right? You think that just because your bone marrow saved her life, she'll be forever grateful and agree to anything you ask. Let me tell you, Lin Dishing, you've miscalculated." I pulled a stack of photos from my bag and flung them in front of him. The photos showed Lin Wanwan's lavish spending records, as well as intimate photos of her with various men. "Your daughter is no pushover. She's selfish, vain, and fickle. Do you really think she'd sacrifice one of her kidneys for a father who hasn't been there for her in over 20 years? Lin Dishing's face darkened. He stared intently at the photos, his breathing growing heavy. I pressed on. "And here's something else. Lin Wanwan has Rh-negative blood, the so-called panda blood. If someone with that blood type has a kidney removed, the risks of pregnancy and childbirth later on become extremely high. Do you think she'd give up her chance to be a mother for you?" Lin Dishing's lips turned pale, and cold sweat beaded on his forehead. I looked at him and laid out my final goal. "But don't lose all hope. Your condition doesn't necessarily require a kidney transplant." He jerked his head up, a glimmer of hope flashing in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I'm a doctor," I said calmly. "I know the world's leading kidney disease specialists. There is a new type of stem cell therapy. While it won't fully cure your disease, it can free you from dialysis and let you live a normal life. However, the cost is very high." "How much?" he asked urgently. 100 million, I said, holding up one finger. He gasped, and, I added, this treatment is extremely scarce, only 5 spots are available worldwide each year. I would need to use a lot of my personal connections to secure one for you. A conflicted expression appeared on Lindezen's face. 100 million was not a small sum to him, but it wasn't beyond his reach either. Using 100 million to buy his health for the rest of his life, along with a daughter who might turn against him at any moment. He knew how to calculate that deal. Why should I trust you? He asked, his eyes full of suspicion. You have no choice. I stood up. Tomorrow is the day of the surgery, donate or not, it's your decision. If you decide to cooperate, transfer the money to this account tomorrow at 9 in the morning. I left a business card. Remember, your time is also running out. With that, I turned and left the tea house. I know that he will undoubtedly make the right choice because someone as selfish as him has always loved only himself above all else. 9 Suicide threat. The next day, outside the operating room, Lin Wanwan had already been moved into the sterile unit and was prepared for surgery. Gu Yan stood in the corridor, waiting anxiously as time passed minute by minute. The scheduled surgery time came and went, but Lin Desheng was still nowhere to be seen. Gu Yan's expression grew darker and darker as he kept calling Lin Desheng's phone, but no one answered. An ominous foreboding weighed on everyone's heart. Just then, my phone rang. It was a bank alert about funds received. 100 million yuan, not a cent missing. I smiled, put away my phone, and sauntered slowly toward Gu Yan. Mr. Gu, stop waiting, I said. Mr. Lin, he isn't coming. Gu Yan whipped his head around and glared at me. It's you did this, didn't you? What could I have done? I shrugged innocently. I just told Mr. Lin some truths, like what his precious daughter is really like. You, Gu Yan trembled with rage. Shenwei, what exactly do you want? What do I want? I walked up to him, looking directly into his eyes. Gu Yan, I don't want anything at all. I just want you to watch with your own eyes the woman you've gone to such lengths to protect, and how she walks toward death step by step. You lunatic, he roared. As if about to lunge at me, several nurses quickly held him back. The door to the operating room opened at that moment. The lead surgeon walked out, removed his mask, his face grave. Mr. Gu, the donor has gone missing. Miss Lin's condition is very serious. Her body is already experiencing severe rejection. If the transplant cannot be performed within today, the doctor didn't finish. But everyone understood what he meant. Gu Yan swayed, as if all his strength had been drained from him. He leaned against the wall and slowly slid to the floor, his face etched with utter despair. Lin Wanwan was wheeled out of the operating room and back to the intensive care unit. Her life had entered its final countdown. I stood outside the ward, looking at her lying on the hospital bed through the glass. She was on a ventilator, covered in various tubes, and on the vital signs monitor, the heartbeat curve was growing increasingly faint. The once untouchable first love was now nothing more than a shell. Waiting for death, Gu Yan knelt outside the ward door, like a madman, repeatedly banging his head against the wall. Wei Wei, I'm begging you, please save her, he cried like a child, tears and sullen streaming down his face. I was wrong. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have betrayed you, shouldn't have treated you that way. As long as you're willing to save her, I'll do anything. I'll even die if that's what it takes. Looking at his wretched state, I felt not a shred of pity. If you knew this day would come, why did you ever do it in the first place? You want me to save her. I squatted down, looked into his eyes, and smiled. Fine, Gu Yan, if you jump from here, I'll donate. I pointed to the window at the end of the corridor. This is the 18th floor. Jumping down means certain death. Gu Yan was stunned. He looked at me, his eyes full of shock and fear. He probably never expected me to make such a demand. What? Lost your nerve? I stood up, dusting off my hands. Looks like your love for her isn't worth much after all. I turned to leave. Behind me, however, came his trembling voice. All right, I'll jump. 10 The truth comes out. I stopped in my tracks and turned around. Gu Yan had already stood up and was walking, step by step, toward that window. There was even a hint of resolve in his retreating figure. The people around were stunned. A few nurses tried to step forward to stop him, but he shoved them aside. He reached the window, turned around, and looked at me. His eyes were very red, filled with regret, anguish, and a trace of emotion I could not read. Wei Wei, if my death can appease your anger and bring Wanwan back, I am willing. He smiled bitterly. I only ask that you never meet me again in your next life. With that, he closed his eyes and leaned backward. No, a piercing scream shattered the silence of the corridor. It was Zhang Qi. She didn't know when she had arrived. Seeing this scene, her face turned pale with fright. She rushed over, trying to pull Gu Yan back, but it was already too late. I stood there, watching coldly. I thought I would see him fall, but I didn't. Gu Yan's body swayed outside the window, then was suddenly yanked back by a powerful force. The ones pulling him back were two men in police uniforms. Behind them followed several stern-faced individuals. I recognized the one at the front, Captain Lee from the Municipal Public Security Bureau. In my previous life, he was the one in charge of investigating the fire that killed my parents. Captain Lee walked up to me and nodded. Then he turned to Gu Yan and held up a pair of handcuffs. Gu Yan, you are suspected of arson and murder from 15 years ago, as well as commercial fraud. You are now under formal arrest. The cold handcuffs clicked shut around Gu Yan's wrists. Gu Yan was completely stunned. He stared blankly at Captain Lee, then looked at me. Arson, murder, what are you talking about? I don't understand. It doesn't matter if you don't understand. Captain Lee patted his cheek. Once you're at the station, you'll have plenty of time to think it over. Gu Yan was taken away by the police as he passed by me. He stared at me intently, his eyes filled with malice and confusion. It was you did it, didn't you? I didn't answer him because there was no need anymore. Zhang Qi ran to my side, patting her chest with a look of lingering fear. Oh my god, that scared me to death. He was really about to jump just now. Wei, what on earth is going on? What arson and murder case? I watched Gu Yan being escorted into the elevator and said calmly, a truth that's 15 years too late. Yes, the truth, a truth I didn't know until the moment I died, after I was reborn. I kept thinking about one question: why did the fire in my previous life happen to be so coincidental? It happened precisely when I was at my weakest, right after donating my bone marrow. It happened precisely to block the only exit from our hospital room. Everything seemed meticulously planned, so I asked Zhang Qi to help me reinvestigate the case files of the fire that killed my parents 15 years ago. What I found was shocking. The fire was no accident at all. It was arson. The point of origin was our family company's warehouse, and at that time, the person in charge of guarding the warehouse was an 18-year-old youth. That youth was Gu Yan. 11. A new beginning. Back then, my father's company had business dealings with Gu Yan's father. Gu's company was in a severe financial crisis at the time and owed my father's company a large sum of money. To avoid paying the debt, Gu's father came up with a vicious scheme. He had his son, Gu Yan, set fire to the warehouse, burning all the account books and goods to make it look like an accident. That way, with all evidence destroyed, the debt would be wiped out. Gu Yan did as he was told. What he didn't expect was that my parents happened to be in that very warehouse that night, taking inventory. A fire that was supposed to only destroy goods turned into a tragedy that claimed 2 lives. Afterward, Father Gu used his connections to suppress the matter. They bribed all the witnesses and destroyed all the evidence. In the end, the fire was ruled an accident. Meanwhile, the Gu family used the insurance money swindled from my parents and the debts they reneged on to make a comeback, growing step by step into today's Gu group. Gu Yan also went from being a poor young man to the exalted President Gu. I only uncovered all of this after my rebirth, and at great cost. I handed all the evidence to Captain Lee. Captain Lee was an upright man, under immense pressure. He reopened the investigation into this cold case. Today was the day to close the net. As for the fire at the hospital and his previous life, it was merely history repeating itself. To ensure Lin Wanwan successfully received my bone marrow without being pestered by me afterward, Gu Yan resorted to the same old trick. He started a fire, intending to have me die inside it without anyone knowing. That way, he could save the love of his life and get rid of me. The nuisance, once and for all. Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. It never crossed his mind that I would be reborn. After Gu Yan was taken away, all hope for Lin Wanwan was lost as well. She lasted less than 24 hours in the intensive care unit before dying of multiple organ failure. When she died, there was no one by her side. Her so-called biological father, Lin Dishing, flew back to Canada immediately after receiving my money and never showed up again. The carefully orchestrated conspiracy ended with all the villains receiving their due punishment. Gu Yan was sentenced to death for multiple crimes, including arson, intentional homicide, and commercial fraud. The Gu Corporation was also seized and declared bankrupt due to tax evasion, falsified accounts, and other violations. I stood in the courtroom gallery, watching Gu Yan being escorted away by the bailiffs from a great distance. He looked at me. There was no longer any hatred in his eyes, only the ash-gray despair of utter hopelessness. I don't know if he felt regret, but it no longer mattered. Stepping out of the courthouse, the sunlight was just right. Zhang Qi came to pick me up in her little red sports car. Where to for a celebration, Miss Shen? She flashed a bright smile behind her sunglasses. I sat in the passenger seat, watching the receding scenery outside the window. Take me to the cemetery. I went to visit my parents. I burned a copy of the verdict in front of their tombstones. In the rising smoke, I seemed to see their relieved smiles. Dad, Mom, I have avenged you. Leaning against the tombstone, I said softly, your daughter will live well from now on. A gust of wind blew away the ash and dried the tears from the corners of my eyes. As I left the cemetery, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. On the other end of the line was a warm male voice. "Hello, is this Dr. Shenwei?" "Yes, speaking. My name is Lu Zhixing. And I am a lawyer. I'm also one of the survivors of the fire back." Then, my heart gave a sudden leap. "There are some things about your parents I'd like to discuss with you in person. Would you be available to meet?" I looked at the distant sky, and a white dove flew across it. I smiled and said, "All right. Life is always about bidding farewell to the past while welcoming a new beginning. This time, I believe it will be a beautiful start." The end. That's the first story for now. Don't go away. The next one will be even more exciting. Diagnosed with terminal cancer. I finally welcomed the wedding I had waited 50 years for. My spouse held the microphone and led the love of my life by the hand to stand before me. "Shuyi, after you're gone, I'll take good care of myself." With that, he performed a romantic ritual I had never experienced before, going down on one knee to place a ring on his first love's finger. "Ningxi, after all these years of missed chances, we can finally be together." Filled with rage, I propped myself up and moved forward, but my daughter stopped me. "Mom, you can go in peace. The three of us, our little family, will live a good life. And one more thing, I won't hide it from you anymore. I'm actually Aunt Gu's daughter. Back then, Dad felt sorry for my mom, so he had the embryo transferred into your womb. The shock and fury caused my cancer to spread prematurely, killing me on the spot. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the year my daughter turned 6, and my old partner had been reborn as well." Song Shui, stop mopping the floor. "I just saw your husband with that homewrecker, heading to the kindergarten to pick up your daughter." The neighbor aunt's well-meaning reminder snapped me out of the painful memories of my previous life. After thanking her, I hurried to the kindergarten. As soon as I arrived, I saw my daughter Shanshan sitting on Gu Ningxi's lap. I carefully hid outside the door and took out my phone to gather evidence. Shanshan, looking utterly wronged, complained to Xia Huayu, "Daddy, when can I finally acknowledge my real mother? That wicked woman at home nags me about my studies every single day. I don't want to live with her anymore." Amidst Shanshan's endless complaints, Gu Ningxi couldn't help but coquettishly protest to Xia Huaiji. "That's right, Huaiji, you've already used Song Shui's womb. Why haven't you divorced her yet?" Xia Huaiji's face stiffened slightly, looking somewhat troubled. "Now is not the right time to bring up divorce. This matter needs careful long-term planning." Gu Ningxi pounded Xia Huaiji's chest, her face full of resentment. "Huaiji, we've finally been given a second chance. Don't you want to make up for the happiness we missed out on in our last life?" "I never expected this." Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi, they've also been reborn. After a few seconds of thought, I took a deep breath. Even though these people made me so sick I wanted to vomit, but for now, I had to hold back. Only by getting proof of Xia Huaiji's infidelity and deception could I make him leave with nothing, so I could get enough money to treat the future cancer. I turned and walked away, while starting to recall what had happened during these days in my previous life. When I got home, the first thing I did, they installed hidden cameras in the corners where no one would notice. They waited quietly for 3 days as expected. Xia Huaiji came back with his daughter and Gu Ningxi, just like in the previous life. As soon as he saw me, he informed me with complete confidence. "You know that Ningxi's parents have both met with misfortune. She has nowhere to go now, so I'm planning to have her come live with us for a while." In the previous life, when Xia Huaiji made this suggestion, I was deeply provoked. I made a huge scene with Xia Huaiji, and on the spot, I slapped Gu Ningxi and told her to get lost. In the end, Xia Huaiji said I was being unreasonable and simply took our daughter and disappeared for 3 months. I only found out right before I died that over those 3 months, Xia Huaiji had taken the two of them abroad to squander money, and it was precisely because I opposed it so strongly that Xia Huaiji never showed any signs of cheating again after that, which led to my miserable death in the end. This time, I changed my decision. Pasting on a smile, I stepped forward and took Gu Ningxi's hand. "Ningxi is your dear childhood friend, and I should treat her like a sister, just as you do. When does my sister plan to move in? I'll go tidy up the room right now." Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi froze at the same time. "Shuyi, you just agreed like that?" Xia Huaiji looked at me suspiciously, as if wondering why I was different from my previous life. I nodded vigorously. "Honey, aren't you always complaining that I lack polish and am not gentle or tolerant enough? I want to try to change myself and become a wife who pleases you." My obedient demeanor soon put Xia Huaiji at ease. He coaxed me with a delighted smile. "Shuyi, I knew marrying you was the right choice." Hearing Xia Huaiji say this, Gu Ningxi immediately put on a pitiful look and, imitating me, pretended to be sensible. "Huaiji, honestly, I wouldn't mind just staying at a hotel. Would it be too much trouble for me to move in here?" Even though Sister Shuyi didn't say anything, I'm sure she's unhappy about it. Not giving Gu Ningxi a chance to play the hypocrite, I pulled her into the house. Of course not. From today on, you live here without worry. What's mine is yours. Seeing me act this way, Xia Huaiji only pushed his luck further. Exactly, Ningxi, if you need anything, just tell Shuyi. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Gu Ningxi gritting her teeth and shooting me a dirty look. Even Shanshan stuck out her tongue at me in disgust. Sure enough, as soon as I turned my back, I heard Shanshan whispering to Gu Ningxi, "That old witch is putting on an act again. She's definitely up to no good. Don't worry, Mom, I will protect you." Hiding my cold smile, I made a big show of preparing dinner for them. The neighbor, seeing me buying so many groceries today, was very curious. "Is your family expecting guests today? Buying all these kinds of meat and fish, it's like celebrating the new year early." I shook my head and told them directly, "My husband has moved his first love back into our home. From now on, I'll have to take care of one more person, so naturally I need to buy more food." The neighbors, who had long heard about Gu Ningxi, were stunned. "Your husband, sneaking around with that vixen is one thing, but actually bringing her into your house, he has no shame left." "Sister, my heart truly goes out to you." I lowered my head and stayed silent, letting everyone think I was being wronged. Given my popularity among the neighbors, I knew it wouldn't take long for the news to spread across the entire neighborhood. That evening, I made a huge table of dishes. Huaiji was so pleased that he couldn't stop praising me. "You're such a wonderful wife. Now that Ningxi is in your care, I can rest easy." Right in front of Huaiji, Gu Ningxi could only force a smile. But later that night, just as I had taken off my clothes to shower, Gu Ningxi suddenly burst into the bathroom. Standing at the door, she shrieked in horror at my belly that had borne a child. "Sister Shuyi, your belly looks like it's crawling with countless maggots. That's so disgusting." Xia Huaiji rushed over when he heard the voice. Seeing how flustered I was, trying to cover my body, Xia Huaiji, right in front of me, hugged the frightened Gu Ningxi. "If it's too gross, don't look. Shanshan is asking for you to play with her. Go on." After coaxing Gu Ningxi away, he paused, then turned back to comfort me. "Ningxi has never had a child, so she doesn't know about these things. Don't take it to heart." With that, he closed the door for me, biting my lower lip and touching my stretch marks. I still couldn't stop the tears from falling. Xia Huaiji, to spare Gu Ningxi from the pains of childbirth, had their child implanted into my womb. For the 10 months of pregnancy, I suffered from morning sickness every single day and all the ailments that come with pregnancy: stretch marks, incontinence, hemorrhoids, and gynecological issues. I experienced every single one originally, because I loved Xia Huaiji. I also loved our child and willingly endured these pains, but only just before my death did I realize I was nothing but a foolish surrogate tool. I fiercely wiped away my tears, deliberately stayed in the bathroom for a long time, and gave Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi the chance to be alone together. After stepping out of the bathroom, I went straight for a walk around the neighborhood. I deliberately went to the spot where the most people gathered to exercise, wiping my tears with a handkerchief nonstop. Neighbors who knew me came up with concern and asked, "Shuyi, what's upsetting you?" I sighed, tears streaming down my face. "My husband moved the first love he can't forget into our home." I didn't dare to stay and disturb them, but my heart hurts so much. Just now, his first love laughed at the stretch marks on my belly and said they looked like maggots. After spreading the news of their scandal, I dawdled my way back home. As soon as I stepped inside, Shanshan threw a toy at me and said, "My bunny is dirty, go wash it for me right now." I picked up the toy coldly and threw it back at her. "Don't you like Aunt Ningxi so much? Let her wash it for you." Shanshan immediately jumped off the sofa, put her hands on her hips, and shouted at me, "Aunt Ningxi's hands are fair and soft. She absolutely cannot do dirty or tiring work. You gave birth to me, so it's only right that you take care of me." I looked down at my rough, cracked hands from years of housework and let out a cold laugh. "You like Ningxi auntie so much, then why doesn't she just be your mom instead?" Shanshan immediately snorted, "Humph, I'd love that. Who wants you as my mom?" As we faced off, Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi came out of the bedroom together. Seeing my cold expression, Xia Huaiji turned hostile toward me too. "Is this how you act as a mother? Ningxi is a guest. How could you have the nerve to let her share the housework?" Shanshan nodded vigorously. "Exactly. Aunt Ningxi is nothing like you. You were born to be a maid." Gu Ningxi picked up Shanshan, looking flustered but actually feeling smug. "Sister Shuyi, children say the darndest things. Please don't take Shanshan too seriously. I'll take Shanshan out too. Play now, so she won't upset you again." After saying that, she pointed to a basin of dirty laundry. "Oh, and these are my underwear and bra I changed out of today. Could you please wash them for me?" "Sister Shuyi, they're all silk, so they can't go in the washing machine. You have to hand wash them." I stayed silent, and only after the family of 3 left I put all the clothes into a basin, soaked them in water, and then stomped them to pieces with my feet. When Guningshi returned and saw that basin of ruined clothes, she got angry just as expected. Didn't I tell you to hand wash them? Look, these clothes are all ruined. Could it be that you're unhappy about me moving in, so you're deliberately messing with me? Maybe it was because I knew I had been angered to death in my previous life, so Guningshi acted like the lady of the house, pouting as she complained about me in front of Xia Huaiji and Shanshan. Shanshan also glared at me fiercely, as dumb as a big old sow. Xia Huaiji, seeing the awkward atmosphere, started coaxing Guningshi again. Pregnancy makes you dumb for 3 years. She's been like this since having the kid. Don't get upset over something so trivial. I'll pay for the ruined clothes. I'll buy you new ones. Guningshi blinked her eyes. So pregnancy and childbirth really make you that stupid? Lucky I don't have children. As she spoke, she shot me a provocative glance from the corner of her eye. The implication in her words went without saying. I clenched my fists, but couldn't lash out to hide it. I lowered my head and sobbed quietly, putting my hands behind my back and putting on a wronged look. This only invited another round of sarcasm from Guningshi. Sister Shui, you're not young anymore, and you've had a child. Playing pitiful doesn't suit you. It's more funny than touching. A housewife should act like a housewife, don't you think? Shanshan clapped along. Aunt Ningxi is right. Then Xia Huaiji, seeing me keep my head down, walked over to me on his own. Let's forget about what happened today, but be more careful in the future. Don't keep making Ningxi angry. I already knew. Thanks to the hidden camera, Guningshi is deliberately bullying me. She doesn't want to wait until she's 50 to marry Huaiji Xia, like she did in her previous life, so she and Xia Huaiji are playing good cop and bad cop, trying to torment me on purpose and force me to initiate the divorce. As long as I'm the one to propose the divorce, Xia Huaiji can protect most of the assets and kick me out openly and legitimately, but they have no idea that their clever plan is bound to fail. I have gathered enough evidence. Chapter 2. That evening, I said I wanted to apologize to Guningshi and went out of my way to prepare a big table of dishes, but as I walked out of the kitchen carrying a pot of scalding soup, a foot suddenly shot out and tripped me hard. The moment I fell, I knew something was terribly wrong. Quick to react, I hurled the soup pot away and threw myself backward, landing on the ground. Bang! Despite narrowly avoiding a scald, the back of my head still hit the ground hard. Guningshi walked out slowly from the side, leading Shanshan by the hand. Seeing me fall flat on my back, limbs sprawled, Shanshan burst out laughing, hopping, and skipping. Ugly woman fell flat on her face. Ha ha ha. Guningshi put on a hypocritical act of stopping Shanshan. Mommy fell. You should go help her up. How can you laugh at mommy like that? While looking at me with utter indifference. Shui, how could you be so careless? Look at this perfectly good soup all spilled. What a waste. She pointed at the knocked over pot and the soup splashed all over the floor, then urged me, are you okay? If you're fine, go wipe the floor quickly. When your husband comes back and sees this mess, he'll be furious. After all, you're already a worn out shoe who's had a child. No one else would want you except Xia Huaiji. Suppressing the raging fire in my heart, I endured the pain and silently got up to clean. After dinner, I deliberately limped out of the house. Then, at the gathering spot where the neighbors exercised together, I tearfully recounted what Guningshi had done to me. The neighbor lady took pity on me, brought me to her home, and offered me fruit to comfort me. Her whole family was also worried about me. You've been away from home for so long, won't that pair of lovebirds sneak into bed while you're gone? Exactly, if you ask me. Your husband brought that vixen back just to fool around. I sighed and wiped the corner of my eye. I don't think they would. Besides, the kids are there. Then, still looking worried, I took the neighbor lady's hand. But I really am scared. What if, just what if they, how about coming home with me? Sister, what if those two are really up to something filthy? Before I could finish, I broke down again, sobbing uncontrollably. The neighbor and her husband were both furious, insisting on accompanying me home. If those two really have no shame, we can help you catch them in the act. I immediately bowed to them with boundless gratitude. Thank you so much. I really don't know what I would do without you. With that, they aggressively led me back home. At the doorstep, they reminded me to move quietly so we wouldn't tip off the snakes through remote monitoring. I knew they were doing something shameful in the room at that very moment. I tiptoed into the apartment and made my way to the bedroom. I took out the spare key I had prepared earlier, inserted it directly into the lock, and opened the door. The moment the door swung open, a loud crash came, the sound of someone falling out of bed. My neighbor, and I looked up. Guningshi was hastily pulling the duvet around herself, trying to hide in the corner. Shedding my former timid and ingratiating demeanor, I roared with full, commanding voice, Xia Huaiji, what are you and Guningshi sneaking around doing in the room? Without giving them time to react, I rushed up to Guningshi and delivered a resounding slap directly to her left cheek. It's bad enough that you've moved into my house, but to openly seduce my husband in broad daylight, you have no shame. Shanshan from next door heard the commotion and hurried over. Seeing me physically assault Guningshi, she immediately jumped in to protect her. Don't you dare bully Aunt Ningxi. The neighbors, a man and a woman, were very surprised. Shanshan, she is your mother. How could you side with an outsider against her? I smiled, then slapped Guningshi's right face backhanded. You seduced my husband, and now you want to steal my daughter away. What kind of spell did you put on her? I swear, she's about to start calling you mom. My yell echoed through the entire floor, and I seized the moment to pull Shanshan back. Guningshi was stunned by my slap, covering her face, at a loss for how to react, but Shanshan, furious on Guningshi's behalf, grabbed my forearm and bit down hard. How dare you hit Aunt Ningxi, you wicked woman, I'll bite you to death. I no longer showed any leniency toward Shanshan either. I just grabbed her and threw her directly onto the bed. Shanshan had never seen me so rough before, and she burst into tears from fright. Daddy, that bad woman is bullying me. Xia Huaiji, who was nearby, quickly pulled on his pants and climbed over to hold my arm. Song Shui, have you lost your mind? What kind of behavior is this? I let out a scornful laugh. If you're so ashamed of causing a scene, then don't do things that are so shameful. I've already put up with you being entangled with your first love all the time, but now you're letting my daughter call her mommy. Anyone would think you three are the real family. Where is everyone? Because I had deliberately left the door open. The commotion drew many neighbors. They had long heard about Xia Huaiji and Guningshi's misdeeds, and now, catching them in the act in bed only added fuel to the fire. They all flooded into my house, pointing at Xia Huaiji and Guningshi while gossiping. How shameless, bringing that homewrecker right home to sleep with. And that daughter is no better. She sides with the mistress and bullies her own mother. Startled by the scene, Shanshan kept shrinking back toward Guningshi. Aunt Ningxi, I'm scared. Guningshi hugged Shanshan, her eyes reddening as tears of grievance welled up. Sister Shui, my lower back just hurt, and Huaiji was only giving me a massage. Huaiji and I are completely innocent. You can slander me, but you shouldn't doubt your own husband. Xia Huaiji frantically tried to smooth things over, and also pulled me aside to insist. You know, I've always treated Guningshi like a sister. What could we possibly have done in such a short time? I knew you couldn't genuinely accept Ningxi staying over. Did you bring people here on purpose to set her up? Xia Huaiji probably hadn't expected me to have changed so much in this life. He squinted, trying to gauge my reaction. To keep him from getting suspicious, I also wiped my tears with a pitiful look and said, Honey, I've never doubted you, but all these rumors outside are really making me anxious. The neighbor lady couldn't stand it anymore and came over with her husband to stand by me. We're the ones who told your wife to come back and catch you cheating. So what? If you've got nothing to hide, why get so angry? We've all seen the dirty things you've been doing with that vixen. After saying that, the lady turned around and announced to the neighbors. We all heard them doing the dirty deed outside the bedroom door just now. So embarrassing. When we pushed the door open, Shui's husband was right on top of that vixen. The neighbors were riled up. Some called for teaching the mistress a lesson, some wanted to post it online, and others encouraged me to get a divorce. Xia Huaiji, feeling cornered, started yelling back at the neighbors. Our family matters are none of your business. Get lost, all of you. After saying that, he turned and glared viciously at me. Song Shui, you've really come up in the world. Look at the mess you've made. Don't forget, you're the one who begged me to marry you. I was just being nice, taking care of my childhood sweetheart, and you, just to stir up this kind of scandal to get back at me, with your vicious behavior. How can this marriage last? Sure enough, Xia Huaiji turned around and bit me, shifting all the blame onto me. It's true that I was the one who pursued Xia Huaiji in the first place simply because Xia Huaiji has a high level of education, a PhD, while I only have an associate degree and come from a small county town. So when facing Xia Huaiji, I was always full of inferiority. I always acted timid and submissive, only silently giving to Xia Huaiji whenever he was cold or hungry. I would run around and attend to him after he and Guningshi missed their chance and couldn't be together. I was the one who stayed by his side every day, giving him comfort. After we had sex when he was drunk, he didn't want to take responsibility. I was the one who set aside my pride and said it didn't matter. Then later, Xia Huaiji finally agreed to date me and marry me. I thought my persistent sincerity had moved him, but only before I died did I understand. When Xia Huaiji married me, he had already planned to use my womb. All he needed was to put a fertilized egg inside me. Guningshi could have a child without any pain or effort, but their exploitation of me didn't end just because I had a child. They treated me like free, unpaid labor, raising Shanshan, buying her a house and a car. I poured my whole life's heart into my daughter, to the point where I couldn't even bear to buy myself a piece of fruit. Yet in the end, this daughter of mine deliberately tried to anger me when I was on my deathbed. Those three people had truly used me up, inside and out. On the day I was reborn and came back, I decided I would take back everything that belonged to me, but at that moment, I wasn't in a hurry to have a complete falling out with Xia Huaiji. I just kept up my usual meek and easy-to-bully demeanor, tugging at Xia Huaiji. Honey, since you hate me so much, let's just get a divorce. The neighbors were still worrying on my behalf. Your husband is the one who messed up. Don't be afraid. Xia Huaiji's eyes lit up. Shuyi, I never said I wanted a divorce, but if you want one, I can oblige. He turned back and exchanged a glance with Gu Ningxi. Gu Ningxi was so embarrassed she wanted to find a hole to hide in, but when she heard me take the initiative to propose divorce, thinking her scheme had succeeded, she peeked out and exchanged a look with Xia Huaiji. Even Shanshan couldn't help jumping up and saying, "Divorce? I don't want this bad mom anymore." Emboldened, Xia Huaiji pointed at my nose and yelled, "You remember, this divorce was your idea, nothing to do with me." "Yes, it was my idea." Hiding my smirk, I informed Xia Huaiji, "Then you can just wait to sign the divorce papers." With that, I packed a few simple belongings and left the house. As for the neighbors, they were still angrily gathered at the doorstep, condemning the adulterous pair on my behalf. Thinking his scheme had succeeded, Xia Huaiji argued with the neighbors for a while, then drove them all away. After the incident of being caught in bed, Xia Huaiji and Gu Lingxi's reputation was completely ruined. I knew they had originally planned to drive me out, then sell the house and take Shanshan to live somewhere. No one knew them, but I would not let them have their way. That very night, I compiled all the evidence of Xia Huaiji's infidelity and, with my lawyer's help, drafted the divorce agreement. The next day, I arranged to meet Xia Huaiji at the law firm. When he arrived, he still had an impatient look on his face. "Can't we just go and handle the paperwork? Why make it so complicated?" He probably thought I was still the same person from my previous life, the one who would give everything just to throw myself at him and our daughter. But the moment he opened the divorce agreement, he was stunned. "Song Shuyi, have you lost your mind? Where do you get the nerve to make me leave with nothing?" I gave a faint smile and had my lawyer turn on the projection screen. Instantly, the scene of Xia Huaiji and Gu Ningxi hugging and cuddling at home flashed before Xia Huaiji's eyes. Seeing Xia Huaiji so shocked that his mouth hung open, I kindly reminded him, "And those schemes you hatched with Gu Ningxi, do I need to play them back to help refresh your memory?" I knocked on the table, pointing at the clauses in the divorce agreement demanding the division of all property. "If you refuse to sign the divorce agreement, we'll go to court. By then, I'll submit all this evidence of infidelity to the court. I trust the court will deliver a fair judgment." Xia Huaiji snapped back to reality and roared at me through gritted teeth, "Song Shuyi, you played the pig to eat the tiger and tricked me. What? Only you and Gu Ningxi are allowed to scheme against me, but I'm not allowed to scheme against you." With all the evidence in hand, I no longer feared Xia Huaiji. At this point, I was no longer afraid of leaving Xia Huaiji either, even if this was the man I had pursued with all my heart, even if I had given him all my youth. But having died once, I understood better than ever the importance of cutting my losses in time. I sat calmly in the chair, looking completely at ease. "Don't forget, I have an entire neighborhood of neighbors as my witnesses. They all support me in making you leave with nothing. They'll take turns testifying in court about how you've mistreated me all these years. The judge might even make you pay me compensation for emotional distress. I may have a low level of education, but I'm not stupid. In the early years, after getting married and having children, I still made time to secretly earn an adult undergraduate degree. Back then, I just wanted to be more worthy of Xia Huaiji, but I never expected that all the legal knowledge I learned in my past life, I would end up using it on myself in this one. Xia Huaiji, if this goes to court, not only will you lose your money, but you'll also be disgraced along with Gu Ningxi." Xia Huaiji hadn't expected me to be so ruthless, and I caught him completely off guard. After a long pause, he shook his fist and threatened me. "You're just a community college girl from a small county. When did you get so clever? Tell me the truth, did you already get involved with another man behind my back? Did he teach you to do this?" Red-eyed with rage, he pointed at the lawyer I'd hired like a mad dog. "It's this guy, isn't it? He's your lover, right? I won't let either of you off the hook." The lawyer slammed his hand on the table and sternly reprimanded Xia Huaiji. "Sir, mind your language, or I will sue you for defamation." Xia Huaiji grumbled indignantly. "Sue me, I have a PhD. I am widely experienced. In court, I can defend myself without a lawyer," pointing at my nose. He showed undisguised contempt for me. "I didn't expect that you, who can't even succeed in school, are so good at stabbing people in the back. I really underestimated a junior college girl like you." but with your character and intelligence, you'll be nothing but a servant your whole life. No highly educated man would want you except me. You'd better think it through. Without me, you can only find those delivery boys who graduated from technical secondary school." Seeing Xia Huaiji's arrogant demeanor, I was completely enraged. I slammed the table and stood up. "Xia Huaiji, did all your schooling go to the dogs? Besides looking down on others, what else can you do? So what if someone went to a vocational middle school? So what if they went to a vocational college? Aren't we all just doing our jobs honestly and contributing to society according to our abilities? As long as they don't break the law or do anything immoral. So what if they've never been to school?" With clear logic, I scolded Xia Huaiji into speechlessness. "At least we're not like you. You have a PhD, yet you've forgotten all propriety, integrity, and shame, sneaking around for an affair right in front of a child." After shouting, I let out another cold laugh. "Oh, I forgot. This child is yours and Gu Ningxi's, so of course you're not afraid of scaring the child." Originally, the divorce agreement didn't even mention them using my womb to have the baby. Hearing me say this, Xia Huaiji, who had been about to argue back, instantly looked terrified. For a moment, he couldn't fathom that I had also been reborn, and stammered as he rushed to deny it. "Don't talk nonsense. Shanshan was clearly born from you. How could she be my and Gu Ningxi's daughter? Song Shui, if you keep spouting nonsense, I'll sue you for defamation." He then stepped forward and grabbed the lawyer, saying, "How much do you charge for a lawsuit? I want to sue this woman. She is slandering me, spreading rumors, and defaming me." Seeing Xia Huaiji like this, I laughed out loud and said, "Xia Huaiji, aren't you a PhD? Don't you know that all it takes is a paternity test for the whole truth to come to light? And here you are, a lofty doctoral student. You forgot this basic point and still want to argue." I touched my belly, taking the chance to vent all the grievances I had accumulated from my previous life into this one. Because I gave birth to that daughter, my stomach is covered in ugly stretch marks. When I was suffering from morning sickness during pregnancy and kept leaking urine after giving birth, you never once cared about any of that. Maybe while I was carrying your child, you were holding Gu Ningxi with smug satisfaction, thrilled that you had fooled a fool like me into bearing your child. As I spoke, my eyes reddened again, but I was still very happy. I thanked heaven for giving me another chance, allowing me in this life to seek justice for myself, even if Shanshan doesn't share my blood. I still risked my life to give birth to her and raised her myself, but she inherited the selfish genes from you, and Gu Ningxi never remembers my kindness, and has her heart set only on Gu Ningxi. I once thought about it. If only Shanshan had shown me a little more love and held some gratitude toward me, perhaps then, for her sake, I wouldn't have taken things to the extreme. But now I know, whether this father and daughter live or die has nothing to do with me from now on. Seeing how orderly and reasoned I was in my accusations, Xia Huaiji finally realized. "Song Shui, could it be that you've been reborn just like me?" I admitted calmly. "Xia Huaiji, it's good that you know. In this life, I will make you pay for all the evil things you've done." I threw the divorce agreement into Xia Huaiji's face. "Since you refuse to sign and still quibble, then I'll see you in court." While Xia Huaiji was stunned, I took out my phone and posted the evidence of infidelity I'd compiled along with a personal statement I'd written online. The shocking story, using the wife's womb to bear a child for the mistress, instantly topped the trending searches. Netizens flooded the comments. "That filthy pair is so malicious. They even came up with the dirty trick of borrowing someone else's womb. That kid is an ungrateful wretch too, not worth any sympathy." Some also questioned the truth of this matter, saying it was too bizarre to happen in real life. Fortunately, I was prepared to let Xia Huaizi face public judgment. I started a live stream, took Shanshan's hair and Gu Ningxi's hair that she left at my place, and went straight to the paternity testing center, paying a premium for an expedited report. The moment Gu Ningxi moved in, I had already decided to obtain something from her to use for a paternity test later. In the live stream, my supporters and those questioning me broke into heated arguments. Meanwhile, Gu Ningxi had stayed out of sight ever since the incident broke. Yet, despite that, netizens still managed to uncover her address and personal information. The moment the paternity test results came out, showing that Gu Ningxi and Shanshan were indeed biological mother and daughter, I broke down in tears in front of the camera. I endured all the immense physical damage and risks of childbirth, fought to bring my child into the world, and then painstakingly raised her. But not only is she ungrateful to me, she scolds and despises me all day long, with her heart set on going back to her biological mother. In coordination with some videos I released earlier, netizens immediately exploded. "I never imagined such a horrifying story could actually exist in this world. That despicable couple and that ungrateful daughter are absolutely monstrous. Can they be sent to prison? Then a legal expert stepped forward and said their deception, implanting the fertilized egg into my body without my knowledge, could indeed constitute a violation of the law. The situation was clearly getting out of hand. Guningshi could no longer sit still. She immediately started a live broadcast to kneel and apologized to me, and also said, I really didn't know that Xia Huaiji had stolen my eggs and used your womb to have a child, that Xia Huaiji has always been obsessed with me. After I rejected him, he used such despicable means to bring about a child from him and me. I didn't know anything. I'm also a victim. Note: the original had ID 7 as the continuation of the previous sentence, corrected here based on typical 1 utterance per item. Regarding Gu Ningxi's behavior of turning against me to save herself, Xia Huaiji had a grievance he couldn't voice. On the day of the court hearing, Shanshan cried even louder, wailing for her mother. Why doesn't Mother Ningxi want me anymore? I want Mother Ningxi. I want my mom. Xia Huaiji, irritated, shoved her to the ground. Don't mention that woman. Shanshan had lost a lot of weight, and her hair had turned dry and yellow. Seeing that her crying and tantrums got no response, she burst into louder sobs and ran toward me. Mom, I'm hungry. Can you make me something to eat? Dad doesn't know how to take care of me at all, and Aunt Ningxi is gone too. I want to go home with you. I pushed her away with a cold expression. I'm not your mother. You should go find your biological mother. Shanshan was used to my unconditional love and indulgence. Seeing that I truly wouldn't accept her anymore, she sat on the ground and wailed loudly, and I just walked into the courtroom without looking back. In order to preserve some of his assets, Xia Huaiji also hired a high-priced lawyer in court. He argued fiercely, trying every means to slander me, but no matter how eloquently he spoke, it was all in vain. Faced with irrefutable evidence, he had no choice but to reluctantly accept leaving with nothing. After leaving the court, he was immediately taken away by the police, who said they needed him to cooperate with the investigation into the embryo implantation, because this case had such a negative impact. Not only him but also the private hospital where the surgery was performed was suspended for rectification and put under investigation, and although I was the victim, yet I bravely agreed to media interviews on camera. I encouraged all girls in unhappy family situations. Don't be afraid, you must first learn to protect your own rights and love yourself well. Only then can you find a happy life. After receiving all the assets, even though I hated to leave the neighbors who had been kind to me, I quickly sold the house and other fixed assets, and took the money to start over in another city. The very day I bought my new home, news came from an old neighbor. You know what? Xia Huaiji had a huge fight with that homewrecker, and in the chaos, she accidentally pushed your shameless ex-husband down the stairs. Xia Huaiji landed flat on his back and became severely paralyzed from the fall. He lay in bed, without a single person coming to visit him. Gu Ningxi was arrested. Shan, unwanted by anyone, was sent to an orphanage. Seeing them all get the endings they deserved, I signed up for self-taught college entrance exams with peace of mind. In this life, I will devote all my time and energy to myself, living out my quiet and happy years. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments section. See you in the next video.